So, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's a great pleasure for me to speak to you on this evening that represents the end of one chapter in our life and the beginning of another. I would like to invite all of you to take a moment to reflect on the beginning of your adventure here to Israel. Do you remember receiving your acceptance letter? You were probably excited to come here to this country. Then you started telling everybody you were coming to Israel, and maybe you started to get a little bit nervous. Everybody is in this room has had a friend or a family member who told him not to come to Israel. There is conflict there. Aren't you afraid of being blown up? Do Jews speak English? Do they have water? So, if you think you heard a million reasons why not to come to Israel, I heard 1.5 million. Growing up in Egypt, the entire country had opinions about Israel, and none of them were positive. All we knew was that we had fought bloody wars, and they were not like us. My first exposure to Israel was through music and television. On the radio, there were anthems about the destruction Israel had caused. On the movies, Israelis were depicted as spies and thieves. And instead of the fact that the two countries struck a very famous peace accord in 1979, the Israelis, I was told, were our eternal enemies. A recent Egyptian action movie called Cousins, a box office hit, told the story of an Israeli spy who married an Egyptian woman and had family with her, only to kidnap the children and go back to Israel. So, when I told my mom about my intention to come and study here in Israel, she was understandably terrified that I would get a girlfriend. I arrived to Israel knowing only what I had learned in the movies and the media. So at the airport, when the security official asked me about the reason I decided to come here, I half jokingly said, I always heard the Jews are bad people, and I came to see this for myself. I expected to find that people here were unfriendly, and especially unhappy to meet Egyptians. But I was pleasantly surprised to find just the opposite. I was invited everywhere, from Shabbat dinner to Ramadan iftar meals, and even to political gatherings and plays. And the diversity I found here was as surprising as the warmth of the people. On my very first day here at the university, I saw men in kibbas, women in headscarves and hijabs. I saw soldiers walking peacefully among lively crowds of students. I learned that there were people of every kind on the university, and the university had a place for all of them: Jews, Muslims, Christians, Druze, Bedouins, and even international students. I discovered that the diversity of the TEU camps was reflected in Tel Aviv city as well. How fascinating is it to be in a city where you can go to a beach in central Tel Aviv and you see a Muslim woman, a couple of gay kissing, and a Hasid sharing the same small space? Where else can you find a Christian Arab whose apartment is decorated with posters of Mao and Lenin? Where else can you see a Bedouin IDF soldier reading the Quran on the train during Ramadan? Where else can you see an Ashkenazi and Mizrahi Jews arguing about whether or not Ashkenazi families had kidnapped Yemenite babies in the 1950s? To be sure, my experience here has been defined by the unexpected. While traveling beyond Tel Aviv, one cannot help but notice the proximity of kibbutzim to Arab villages and the easy relationship they seem to share with one another. Perhaps the greatest revelation of my being here was that in spite of all the conflicting histories and identities, people are still able to live their daily lives in a spirit of cooperation. One particular instance stands out for me when I think about this paradox that plays out in Israel on a day-to-day basis. In my first weeks here at the university, I met a nice Arab Israeli student, wherein she lectured me on the importance of Arab nations boycotting Israel. As our conversation came to an end, a Jewish boy, about 8 years old, skipped up to us, excited to see her. It turns out that she was his teacher. She gave him a big hug and a kiss on his cheek. Their affection seemed like an interaction between a brother and a sister. I could see how much she truly loved the boy, and how the boy loved her too. No matter how deeply the conflict, the human side always prevails. I often reflect on the strangeness of coming to this country, where the people I was taught to think of as my enemies were transformed into my teachers, classmates, doctors, vendors, and guidance counselors. When Israelis ask me, how does it feel for you to be in this country? I have to be honest with them. I tell them, before I knew you, I didn't like you, but I never considered that my enemies would accept me to their school, to their country, and moreover, into their society. Interestingly, at the end of my experience, one of the biggest surprises came not from Israel, but from Egypt. Each year, during Ramadan, there is a special series of soap operas where Arab families all over the Arab world gather to watch after breaking the fast. This year's soap opera was called Harat al-Yahud, the Jewish Coder, and it told the story of Egyptian Jews in the wake of the establishment of the State of Israel. The series deals with questions of identity and politics, and features a cast of Jewish and Muslim characters, and there is even an inter-religious love affairs. As a student of history, I cannot say that the series was perfect, but the depiction of Jews for the first time as human beings, as people with a love of family and country, rather than mortal enemies, is nothing short of extraordinary. And while Egypt has ways to go before accepting Israel as a friend, perhaps this series will inspire more Egyptians to at least be willing one day to rethink the enemy. After a year of countless surprises, I came to realize that there is a lesson in all this, one that I think we all can use. Moreover, I think it is something we master degree students who strive to understand things more precisely. We need to understand. We must always question our assumptions. Being here in Israel has taught me that life is full of a lot of paradoxes and complexities, that nothing is straightforward, and that things are often not as they are made to seem. No matter how much education and life experience we acquire, we must always dig deeper. So today, as we celebrate the end of a great year, let's also remember to go forward with a sense of renewed curiosity, knowing the only thing one should truly expect in life is for life to defy your expectations. Thank you.